Today I'm at the Willow Grove Park Mall in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. Personally, this is one of my favorite malls. It's also one of the largest and most successful malls in the Philadelphia region. The mall itself was built in 1982, but this property goes way back. It used to be the Willow Grove Park, a theme park that existed here from 1896 to 1975. And that's why the mall was named Willow Grove Park. It was named in honor of the old theme park. It was also designed with a Victorian theme as another homage to the old theme park. And they've got this cool carousel by the entrance I always come in. In 1978, Federated Department Stores and the Rubin Organization announced plans to build a $25 million mall on the site of the old theme park. These plans were approved by the Township of Abington in 1979, but they were amended. There was originally supposed to be 4 anchor stores here, but they had to downsize to 3 due to concerns from local residents. They did eventually end up adding a 4th anchor store, though. The mall opened on August 11th, 1982, with Bloomingdale's, Abraham and Straus, and B. Altman and Company as the original anchors. For the first few years, it was more of a high-end mall, but by the late 80s, they decided to try and attract more middle-class shoppers, and the selection of stores broadened accordingly. Today, it still does have some upscale stores, but I still think of this more as a typical mall than I do an upscale one. This Primark here is where B. Altman was located originally, but that only lasted 4 years. It closed in 1986. Then in 1987, Sears moved in, relocating from their standalone store in Abington. And Sears downsized to just the first floor in 2015, with Primark moving into the second and third floors in 2016. Then Sears closed altogether in 2022. I was actually there about a week before they announced they were closing, and it was looking pretty sad in there. That was my first visit to a Sears since about 2018, and it'll probably be my last visit to a Sears unless I end up going to one of the 8 or 9 that are still open. And considering that the closest one to me is in Boston, I doubt that I will. This section here was originally the 3rd floor of Abraham and Straus, which was here until 1988 when it was replaced by Strawbridge and Clothier. Strawbridge and Clothier had relocated from its standalone store in Jenkintown, and they were here until 2006. Boscov's was supposed to move into the 1st and 2nd floors, but that never happened. Eventually, JCPenney moved into the 1st and 2nd floors in 2012. Meanwhile, the 3rd floor was divided into more mall space. Up at the right at the end, the Cheesecake Factory, that opened in 2007. To my left is Yard House, that was originally Bravo Cucina Italiana, which opened in 2011 and closed in 2017 before Yard House moved in 2019. And ahead you can see Nordstrom Rack, that opened in 2012. In 2000, the mall was acquired by Priya and the Pennsylvania State Employees Retirement System for $140 million. Then in 2001, it underwent its first major renovation, with Macy's joining the mall as the 4th anchor, in addition to a new parking garage with 800 spaces by the food court, and that carousel we passed at the beginning of the video. This all cost $25 million. In 2003, Priya became the sole owners of the mall when they acquired the Pennsylvania State Employees Retirement System's 70% stake of ownership for $122.3 million. Priya still owns the mall today, and this is actually their 2nd best performing mall after the Cherry Hill Mall. It actually surpassed the Cherry Hill Mall in terms of sales per square foot in 2019, but I think Cherry Hill Mall is back in front now. The two malls share some similarities. They're both very big. They both have an upscale anchor store, Nordstrom at Cherry Hill Mall and Bloomingdale's here. Now, as for non-anchor stores, Cherry Hill Mall has more upscale stores than Willow Grove Mall does, but they're both doing very well. Priet has invested heavily into both of them, and it has paid off. Priet has struggled financially in recent years. They own 3 other malls in the area: Exton Square Mall, Plymouth Meeting Mall, and Morristown Mall, all of which are either dead or at least struggling. Yet, Cherry Hill Mall and Willow Grove Mall make up 2 of the 3 top malls in the region, only behind King of Prussia Mall. In addition to Priet's efforts, I think this is just a nice place to spend time. It's aesthetically pleasing, it's not boring like a lot of malls are nowadays. It's got this nice Victorian theming. There's a lot of skylights, so it's always bright in here, which is nice. Some malls have a lot of dark spots. And in addition to shopping, there's also a number of entertainment options here and dining options. There's a few other malls that are closer to me than this one, but I'd rather come here than any of them. Here's Bloomingdale's, which opened in 1982. It's one of only 2 Bloomingdale's in the Philadelphia area, the other being at King of Prussia Mall. So it's a pretty exclusive brand to a market this big. It was actually a relocation of their old standalone store in Jenkintown. This vacant spot to our right used to be LensCrafters. I'm not exactly sure when that closed, but I think there's a LensCrafters within the Macy's, so they probably closed the store because of that. Okay, now we're about to enter the food court, and this is a pretty good food court, I think. You got a pretty decent selection of things here. Haagen-Dazs. Salad Works is closed, but that's the only place that's closed in here. Everything else is open. You got a Chick-fil-A. Master Walk, I see that different places. There's always a lot of people in here, too. To the right, that's the doors to the parking garage, which was built in 2001. Not a whole lot of major chains in here, other than Chick-fil-A and Charlie's. I feel like that's the case at most mall food courts nowadays. It's a lot of places that I don't necessarily see everywhere. Not that that's a bad thing. The store at the end next to the chicken and burger place used to be Starbucks. That closed in 2022, and I'm really not sure why, because you would think that Starbucks would do well in a mall like this. That space to the right of Primark was Land's End, which was a part of Sears. I think Sears spun off Land's End around 2014 or so, but the store still had cross-access with the Sears. Coming up here was Abraham and Straus from 82 to 88, then Strawbridge and Clothier from 88 to 2006. Then JCPenney moved into the first and second floors in 2012. That closed in 2017. In 2018, it was announced that Studio Movie Grill would be moving into the space. It would have had an 11-screen dine-in movie theater with a bar, and that was supposed to open in early 2020. But that never materialized. Then Tilted 10 moved in 2023. That's kind of like a round one entertainment type place. I think the benches and trash cans in this mall are somewhat old. They don't really look like they're recent. They're probably from the 2001 renovations, I would think. There never seem to be a whole lot of people down in the Bloomingdale's wing, I've noticed. This vacant spot on the right used to be Soma. This used to be Banana Republic, now it's a photography studio. Overall, this is a nice mall. I've never seen anything happen while I was here personally, but there have been a number of incidents over the years. During Thanksgiving weekend in 2006, there was a small fire that broke out inside the Forever 21, and that forced the evacuation of 6,000 shoppers in the mall. Luckily, no one was injured. In 2011, a 16-year-old boy was smoking synthetic cannabis on the third floor of the parking garage and jumped off. He did suffer injuries, but he wasn't killed. Then in 2023, someone who was shoplifting at the Apple store on the second floor jumped over the rail in an attempt to evade arrest. He ended up breaking his pelvis and tailbone.
Hello?
Willow Grove Mall has a large economic impact on its community. In 2018, it employed over 2,000 people, making it the third largest employer in Abington Township with nearly 8% of the jobs in the township. It's the third most profitable mall in the Philadelphia area after King of Prussia Mall and Cherry Hill Mall. In 2019, it had a sales per square foot of $763, which at the time was the highest of all the malls owned by Priet. By 2021, that number had fallen to $603 per square foot. I imagine, though, that had something to do with not as many people going out shopping in 2021 due to COVID, but I'm sure the number has gone back up since then. However, that's the most recent figure I could find. As of 2024, the mall has an occupancy rate of 96%, which puts it right around the same neighborhood as Cherry Hill Mall. And yeah, while I was walking around, I only counted a handful of vacancies, so that definitely seems right. This rally house opened, I want to say, the beginning of 2024. What's interesting is there's already a rally house out in the parking lot, and it's still there, so there's two on the same property. There's a similar situation over in Deptford where there's a rally house in the mall, and there's a rally house across the street from the mall. They must do pretty good business if they're able to have duplicate locations so close to each other. By the way, this was filmed on New Year's Eve, so the Christmas decorations were still up at this point. And I like this mall's Christmas decorations. I think they're one of the better malls in the area when it comes to that. The tree is huge. Over there, they've got a guy shining shoes, which is surprising. I don't think I've ever seen that. Here's another vacancy, and I think almost all of the vacancies, if not all of them, are in the Bloomingdale's wing. But the first floor of this wing does seem to be a bit livelier than the second and third floors. In October 2024, the mall implemented a new policy banning underage shoppers after 5 p.m. on Monday through Saturday and after 3 p.m. on Sundays, unless they're accompanied by an adult. Now, this was a Tuesday around 3 p.m., so we weren't at that 5 p.m. threshold yet. I'm not sure how well that's actually enforced, but it seems like a good idea in theory. Of course, it's unfortunate for the majority of kids who don't cause issues. The mall should be a place where teens can hang out, but there's always got to be a few troublemakers who have to ruin it for everybody. I think Cherry Hill Mall had a similar policy, but that was only for the last week of the year, whereas this is year-round. And this up here was the Sears, which, as I mentioned, closed in 2022. You can still see inside. Looks like they've removed everything from there at this point. And I don't know if anything's ever going to move in there, but I haven't read anything about it, so maybe eventually. When I was there in January 2022, even though it was only the one floor, it was still extremely bare in there. Everything was so spread out. It was kind of eerie, actually. I knew that the place couldn't possibly last much longer, but they had signs up saying they were hiring, actually. At this point, the tour is just about over. But yeah, Willow Grove Mall is doing very well, and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. Considering the state of indoor malls as a whole, it's amazing to see one like this that's still going strong, especially one that is so middle-class friendly. This isn't one of those super high-end malls. Being here kind of makes me feel nostalgic because during my childhood, all of the malls I went to were like this. They were always packed, hardly a vacant spot. They were full of life. And so many of those malls are dead or at least heavily struggling nowadays. So it's great to see one like this. Before we go, here's just another look at the carousel, a wider shot than the one I got coming in. Well, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.